Hey guys, Huzaifa here, Chief Growth Officer at Resolute Education, and today I had the privilege of hosting a panel discussion at Engagement Week, which was titled Understanding AI Beyond the Buzzwords. Why this panel was so important was because there exists a significant gap in the understanding of what AI is and isn't, and there is a clear disconnection between what AI actually is and how founders are applying it into their businesses. So today's session was revolving around demystifying AI and giving them some practical tips and tricks into how to integrate AI into their businesses, or whether they should integrate AI or not. To find out more information or to understand a little bit more about this topic, keep watching and enjoy. To set the scene, firstly, I'm a non-technical person, so I don't have a background in AI, but today's topic is all about understanding AI and its applications in education beyond the buzzwords. And so for me, this panel is particularly interesting because AI is probably one of the most commonly used words since probably 2021, 2022, and almost everyone uses it. In the cohort, or probably in almost any EdTech or tech startup, you'll now hear, we've got X powered by AI. And so we don't really know what that means. And today we're going to unpack that with a group of experts. And the idea is to really demystify what AI is, how we can apply it in education and EdTech specifically. And the idea is for you to take away some critical concepts and key takeaways that you can actually apply, either to be able to integrate AI or to be able to not integrate AI into what you're building. So for me, to get started, I think I'm just going to go panelist to panelist, just to introduce yourself, your role, and what your company does.
I'm Ishe. I'm a CTO, otherwise known as the tech guy at Vambo AI. So I am in charge of our African language AI model. So this was a great day for me today. AI panel, African language before. So
my name is Ritesh Kanjee from Augmented AI, founder and director. We mostly focus on AI agents, AI automations, creating the full pipelines, video generation, especially for education usage, and basically making business easier with AI.
I'm Gabi. I am the founder and CEO of Mindjoy, and we're building a platform for STEM learning where we partner with higher ed and university or high school organizations to help augment teachers to scale their impact for great teaching and learning.
Thank you guys for the introductions. Really excited to have you here. A quick exercise for the room. If I say AI, what's the first word that comes to mind? ChatGPT. And clearly a lot of people equate AI with ChatGPT. And so my first question is to you, Ritesh. How do you explain what AI is to somebody that's non-technical without prior experience? What is actually AI?
Some people will call it magic or a black box. You put in something and you get this magical answer to most of your life's questions. And it's pretty amazing what it can do and how it has evolved over time. And I thought that we wouldn't get to AGI or artificial general intelligence so soon. This was back in like COVID times. I was like, no, AI is so far away. And then here comes ChatGPT. You type in something and it gives you a lot of meaningful answers. And if you think about it, a lot of people think that ChatGPT is the be-all and end-all for AI, but it's not. It's prone to hallucinations. It lies to you a lot of the time. And it doesn't know everything, and that's, I think, the biggest misconception for AI is that people take it as the ground truth and say, whatever comes from ChatGPT is what I must do. And maybe that's AI's plan for taking over the world, reliance. So yeah.
Absolutely. Gabi, I think one of the things I like the most about what Mindjoy does is the fact that you say you make learning faster, engaging, and more fun with a community of great educators using AI. Now that Ritesh has explained what AI is, what in your opinion is AI not? And why do you think tech founders or tech founders should maybe stop saying it in their pitches?
I had a really hard time when you gave me this question because I think in 2025 it's really hard to say what AI is not. So I would maybe differ a little bit from Ritesh because the definitions and the capabilities are changing so quickly that if I were to say, okay, well, it can't do this now, but like hallucinations, for example, is an interesting thing. Hallucinations, well, every round of models that come out from different providers get better and better at dealing with hallucinations. And if you implement LLMs in the right way, you try and mitigate for hallucinations based on your use case. So, it's like, yeah, they hallucinate. And now there's good research to say that hallucinations are incredibly useful for novel thinking or coming up with new ideas. And yeah, I don't know. So I don't really know how to answer that question to say what it is not. It is maybe not conscious in the way that humans are conscious. And it is maybe not a feeling machine, but it is a thinking machine, and it is a creative machine. These are creative programs. And I think we have a lot to risk if we kid ourselves that the technology is not capable of reasoning, thinking, creating. The science just doesn't say that. So, but I do not think it is a silver bullet.
Took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly where we were going with that, is that it isn't a silver bullet. It isn't the answer to all of our problems. And I think even in the last 2 days, just when we're talking to each other, a lot of our problems are human-first problems. So when we're working with humans, all of the kids that we're teaching are human-first. They're not machines that we're trying to ingrain a specific thought process into or trying to get specific skills into. As much as we're trying to teach them and future-proof them about what the world of tomorrow looks like, they are human first. And I think when you're talking about it, Gabi, that is the reality of it, is that as much as it is a very powerful tool, it's not the answer to everything. And of course, like Ritesh mentioned earlier, and Gabi also touched on it, the hallucination element is also a big thing that we're seeing now. But there are also a lot of nuances that we need to be aware of. So Ishe, maybe from your side, if you can help with, just from your perspective, building what you're building, what are some technical limitations that you've experienced when trying to integrate AI? How have you guys worked around it? What does that look like in the real world?
As far as technical limitations go, you're 100% correct. It is not a silver bullet. The main limitation with AI is basically trying to find out where you are missing. So basically, AI is great at doing lots of things, but it's incredibly difficult to see when AI is not performing to 100% of the standard. So I'll just give a basic example of a translation system. And you can build a translation system and it can work and all of that. But it's really hard to spot the instances where it doesn't work. Like maybe it works everywhere, but it's terrible at translating medical terms, for example.
Absolutely. No, that's amazing. And Ritesh, I think from your side, just from a more technical perspective, what are, like when you're looking at a startup that wants to integrate AI, what are 3 things every startup needs before they even should consider adding AI into their building mix?
When it comes to solving any sort of problem, everyone just wants to throw AI, like let's throw AI at this and throw AI at that. It all starts with starting with the problem. Myself, I'm guilty of the innovator's dilemma. You want to build a technology, take it to market, but are you really solving the problem? I can go and solve the problem, take the problem, and decide whether to use AI or not. You can solve it with traditional machine learning, or you can use generative AI model, which is, it depends what kind of problems you're solving. Does it need AI? Does it not? Does it just need an if-else statement? Once you decide what problem you're solving, then you can take it to the next level and start identifying the list of things that you need to solve. Modern agentic systems are currently using the task system. So they define a number of tasks, and once they do that, they tackle each one step by step. And that's traditionally how engineers solve problems. They go through each and every step, and then they figure out, okay, let's create a plan, and then can we apply AI? Can we not? If we are using AI, let's have a way to evaluate it properly. Because normally what people do, they throw AI and, okay, that is, it works. But then if you ask the same question twice or 3 times or even 10 times, you'll get different answers each and every time. But as the models get better, you'll get more deterministic answers. That's why people sometimes prefer machine learning over AI, because they get more deterministic output, which is ideal for when you need the actual answers. If it's life and death, you need more predictable outputs rather than okay, if you're just doing something, I just want some quick answers, then you can use generative AI for that.
No, amazing. I think my key takeaway from that is the fit for purpose element is what problem are we solving, and do we actually need AI to be able to solve that problem, or are we over-engineering unnecessarily, which of course costs a lot of money. So I think maybe Gabi, you could give us some insights in terms of, in your experience, what's a feature that you may have wanted to build or rejected, but initially it sounded really good in theory until you practically applied it, and then it completely just went bananas.
We don't really have something that went wrong in the we deployed something and it went wrong. Sometimes we ship things, if you're building a product, that sometimes happens. You ship something and it there's a bug or an error, or you have to fix that. That's typical of any software development process and your customer support and how quickly you respond to fixing errors. And your error tracking is always an important part of a software development process. So that's kind of part of the game. But what I can say is that something we tried 2 years ago we built a system based on some assumptions with LLMs and something called pathways. And when we released it, the users were overwhelmed by the capabilities. It was too scary. And we were just early with something. And we stripped back that whole product to something that people could understand, the user could understand in many ways. And it's funny now, is that there was also other things, which was the models weren't quite ready. We didn't release this to all our users. It was a beta group. But the interesting thing was people didn't really know what to do with it, and it was almost magic. It was too magical there was a structure creation, assessment creation, evaluations of your learning process in the classroom. Just that was a whole next level experience for a teacher, right? And that was sort of their first encounter with AI. And that was too scary, And so, the other thing was that the LLMs weren't good enough with things like image processing, the handwriting recognition wasn't as accurate. It wasn't accurate enough, so you were getting a 60 to 70% reliability with the LLMs. So it wasn't good enough for production. But we were this is definitely the future. And every few months, when the new models come out, we put the model into the system and we see how does it perform now, how does it perform now, how does it perform now. And now we're at the point where it's we get 90%, 93%, 96% accuracy, and that's good enough. And now, all of a sudden, that can be received, those products can be received by the market or by your user. So it's interesting, there's a fine balance between again, problem, is the problem you're solving, but also adoption. There's an adoption cycle with a new technology, and do your users understand it, or are they ready for it? Sometimes that's a normal thing.
Absolutely, that's a great point. And I think we've had multiple discussions about this with different founders of sometimes we build in an ivory tower, but we build so far that our users, the actual beneficiaries of our products, are not ready for it.
And that's why we always roll out with a beta test of users first. So that's a low risk thing. You have a beta test and you're getting feedback. You're oh, this is not good enough, it's not ready. And that's also a beautiful process to involve co-design with your actual users in your product development cycles, because then your users are helping you design and giving you feedback.
Absolutely, and it's fit for purpose again, because they're telling you exactly what they need and how to make their lives easier. But there is a different side to this coin of you've got the AI builders and the AI deployment, which is happening in the background, but the other side is, does the audience, does the user, does a fellow EdTech actually understand how to use this? And so, Ritesh, for example, on your end, quite a lot of your work focuses around AI training, probably for this exact reason. But what are some insights that you're getting from the market, from people that you're teaching about LLMs or computer vision or pretty much anything that you're doing? Why are you doing what you're doing, and what is the feedback from the people that are using it?
Some people are not sure what AI is, so they think, okay, it can solve my problems. But you get people who know what AI is. So the work that we're doing is more about, let's optimize your current processes. Let's not just throw AI and expect magical results. Let's see what you are doing. Can we speed it up? Can we save you time? Can you save you resources? And maybe save you other things, maybe stress. Save you from not experiencing stress. Like we've been working with Resolute for creating, automating videos because, you guys have a lot of videos, like 366 videos that you have to have before the end of the year. And to go out and film those videos, record, get voiceovers, get actors, whatever it is, those things cost money, a lot of money to animate certain videos. Also to be able to get it done in minimal amount of time, we save you time. And also to basically, optimize the process, get stuff done faster. And if you get things done faster to market, you obviously start making money more quicker. Now, the thing is, with regards to automating videos, like, there's going to be problems with the videos, but that's where the human in the loop comes in. You can automate the full thing, like we've done with our AI parenting app, so AI for parents. I ran a little experiment on TikTok to say, okay, can you automate the full pipeline and generate like maybe 20 videos per week, which we actually did. And it was quite fascinating in the test that we ran. We started off with an animated video, like Disney-style animation, and then we shifted. We were only getting like single-digit views on those videos on Instagram. The minute we switched to realistic videos, we got 100x improvement in views. So overnight, we were getting like hundreds of views from those videos, which I found was pretty amazing. And what I did was, I said, okay, Google Gemini, ChatGPT, this is the results we're getting from TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Can you take those results and optimize it? What do we have to do? So it says, okay, with videos, you need to optimize your hook. You need to make sure that you have visual style. Your visual style is pleasing and captures people instantly. And maybe some subtitles, add some subtitles. And all of those things that we did, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, improving. It's like autonomous A/B testing that we're doing. And because we're able to create videos so fast, we're able to iterate faster and get better and much more significant results sooner. And yeah, all of that research came to Resolute, and I think as the models become better and better, we found that our output becomes better and better. And if you look at the rapid pace of AI, it's just crazy at the amount of quality that we can get in a short amount of time.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Ritesh. I think for me, what's really important about this is closing that feedback loop and being able to develop that human connection to the tools that you're using to be able to understand that it is a tool, it's an enabler, it's not a replacement. And I think I would want to understand from your side, Ishe, especially using it for language, and language is a very big connector in terms of people relate to each other when they speak the same tongue, as an example. Well, how do you guys close the feedback loop within understanding is my tool working or not, and what changes do I need to make to be able to make this more usable to your audience?
Basically, your standard playbook in AI is we're going to run evaluations. Evaluations are just more or less an automated way of just checking how good an AI is at doing a certain thing. But in particular with something like language, and not just language actually, whether it's language, video creation is probably a good one as well. When things become a little bit more nuanced and it's something that's a little bit more personal to people, eventually, not even eventually, as soon as possible, you are just going to have to talk to as many people as possible. All of your assumptions are just assumptions. the things that should work 100% well on paper might be completely off. So your best bet is to go out to someone who has no idea about what you're doing, no stake in this, who's in whatever kind of demographic you're targeting, least technical user, and just put it in front of them. And you know, those are the ones we call human evals. And basically, you just have them give you their honest opinion. Okay, so this works for me, this doesn't work for me. If I had a magic wand, I'd change this, this, and that. That is the best feedback you can possibly get. It might not be things that you can action in a day or 2 days or anything like that, but it is 100% the best thing you can do.
Absolutely. I think especially with Vambo using it for language and Mindjoy using it for STEM education, you guys may have different approaches to doing it, but Gabi, maybe you could share some insights on how you collect the data points that we're talking about. What kind of questions do you guys ask your users to be able to better develop your AI tools?
We don't really ask them questions, we try and listen. And we make ourselves available. I don't think we have specific sets of questions. We're like, oh, I mean, there's the standard, like, how do you like using this? Is it great? Like, how would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 5? Like, are you likely to, like, NPS, are you likely to recommend it? But I don't think that's as useful as sort of just actually being responsive to your, like, customer queries. Like, if you're just available to the people you serve, like, there is so much data in that all the time. And then I think, like, spending time in the actual environments you're building for. So, like, we spend a lot of time in the classroom with teachers, with students. We send our engineers into the classroom as well. They go and sit in a lecture hall with 200 students, 600 students, and they watch their product be painful to use in a certain way, and they feel the urgency to fix it. So it's also about, it's not about necessarily speaking and asking, but also just listening and observing and putting yourself on the ground and seeing, well, does it work in reality the way you think it does? And then I think just feedback comes in so many different shapes and forms. And so, I mean, we don't just design for teachers, but also for students. So most of our feedback is relayed via students or via the teacher, you know, or through the lens of the teacher. But, you know, we're spending a lot of work to also try and create space for student voice. So actually getting students' feedback on the product, because they're ultimately the end user, the learner. So I think that's something you can also try and make sure you're catering for all your users, because education is that kind of complex problem where you have different stakeholders that you're designing for.
No, I think that's really important. That's almost a topic for a completely different discussion, which is knowing your customer really well and knowing your students and teachers really well, especially as EdTechs, we tend to build and then we don't talk to them enough, or we don't observe them enough, and we realize that just connecting with them, understanding how they're using what we're building, may actually help us get all the answers that we need to be able to develop better. But of course, the data points also an important part of this discussion is that, for example, at Resolute, we have literally hundreds of thousands of different data points, rich data on engagement, user metrics, how they're watching videos, etc. Perhaps, Ritesh, you can maybe give insights on some tools that you could use for data analytics for the rest of the founders out here to be able to actually process their data using AI in an effective way, and then using that to be able to draw real insights from and build a story.
When it comes to data, you can decide whether you need to collect data or if you can already use a pre-trained model. Using generative AI, because it's already been trained on a large corpus of data, which basically is the internet, you can find that you can do so much more because the data has already been processed and collected, and you can just call for that data to be used. Like, I can give you one example. We did a proposal for a uniform inspection application for hospitality, where one of the staff members would come in front of a camera, and the camera will be saying, okay, your uniform is not tucked in, your hair is out of place, your shirt is untucked or whatever, and it will give you access to clock in or clock out. So that is one application. Now, we could have done it using classic computer vision algorithms, which means that we would have to get the data of the people, train the models, maybe gather 1,000, maybe to 10,000 images, depending on how complex the scene is. And then the training process itself is quite tedious and laborious. And then you have to go back and fine-tune the model to make it even better and better and better, so that there's less mistakes. But now we quoted a price for the client, and it worked out to be quite expensive. Then I had this idea, why not just use generative AI to be able to say, okay, this person's shirt is not tucked in, their hair is out of place, or the shirt buttons they're not buttoned up. And just contemplating it and looking at the implementation, it worked out to probably be like 5 times cheaper than the classic computer vision one, because you don't need the data. You can just use like a Gemini model or any GPT model GPT vision model to say, okay, this person is not dressed well and therefore cannot clock in. And yeah, it's quite amazing what you can do. And you can now have the power to say, do I need the data or don't I? And obviously you can train the model to be a little bit better for the transformer models or the vision language models, or you can just have something that's a little bit less strict, because you can decide what you want to do at the end of the day. So with generative AI, it just makes life a lot easier, and obviously it depends on the applications that you're using it for.
That's some very good advice, and I think there are quite a few advancements being made in the space of availability of these kind of tools. I read somewhere yesterday that the UAE, for example, is making ChatGPT 4 publicly available for everyone at no cost, to be able to give access to these kind of tools, to be able to leverage, which is insanely powerful by putting these kind of tools in the hands of pretty much everyone. But I think I've already got answers to a lot of the questions I wanted to ask. Before I give the panelists some time to close off, I'd love to open the floor to the audience. I hope you guys have some great questions. But questions from the audience for our panelists.
So I do a lot of travel. We're in teacher development, professional development of teachers. And so, for example, next week I'm in India and Nepal doing presentations there. Then I thought, but now I also need to be presenting to schools. So a month ago, I spoke to a company who said they'll create an avatar of me, train my voice, and then I could present in 2 places at one time. Basically, this is the plan. But the end result was good. My brother runs a large animation studio, and I showed him the end result, and he just shook his head at me, and he said, firstly, people aren't going to buy this. Secondly, we're on a wave right now where it's quite cool, but it's going to get to a point where people are saying, we actually want that human connection. I want to pay for a real human engaging with me, not an avatar. So I don't know, maybe all of you can make just like a 1-sentence comment on it, because I know you all have probably an incredible opinion on this, but your thoughts on avatars and the future of that in scaling presenting, and where you think we should be regarding that?
So I guess I would go back to like, well, why are you doing that, right? Like, what is it that people actually value about hiring your services, right? Like, if it's because you're the person in the room, then maybe they're not going to pay for an avatar. So again, it's just like, what is the job to be done? What are you trying to do? And is the technology the right use of it? I'm less interested in like hype waves or not, because I think different people have appetite and taste for different things. In the same way as not everyone learns in the same way or likes the same kinds of resources or likes to organize their notes or their learning materials. Some people like to read, some people like to watch YouTube videos. I think the same is true with, like, let's say our AI appetites are going to evolve and differ. So that would be my take on it.
That's a very good question. And I think we're sort of bordering on science fiction. Have you guys watched the movie Her? AI is getting very good, very fast. And I've noticed from my experience, like, I've automated quite a few things, but people still prefer like the human input. So I run a YouTube channel called Augmented AI. And when I've automated the videos, they haven't gotten that much views. But if I show my face and I put myself out there and show the mistakes, the ums and ahs, the mistakes humans make, I've been getting more views that way, showing the human connection. People want to see the character. They want to see the character struggle and let the character win at the end of the day, you know, like your traditional story brand. And if you can present something that you can automate with AI, but also have the human in loop that combines, you know, the human and the AI, so the AI will just be a tool that you can use to make things quicker. But to touch on the topic that you were speaking about, to clone yourself and be in two places at once, that is possible. And we are getting to a point where AI is getting so good. I don't know if you guys seen Sesame AI. Sesame AI is super realistic. I sent this link for people to try it out. It's not our product, it's Sesame AI Labs. So they released this AI called Sesame that you can try out. There's Maya and I forgot what the guy's name is. And in our AI ZA group, people tried it out and they were like, wow, this is amazing. And some of the people even started getting drawn to the voice because the voice was so like realistic and it sounded like a human, like an actual human being, breathing sounds, the filler words. It just blew my mind at how realistic it was. So if we can take that and maybe improve the intelligence, give it some memory to remember you, like, you know, they'll be like, hey, Ritesh, you know, we spoke about this last time. How do you feel about the problem that you were facing? Did you manage to overcome it? And it's that connection that people crave. If we can sort of like link that connection to, or get an AI to create that connection that humans so dearly crave, I think we can get quite close to you being in two places or having that AI avatar that can essentially run your business for you.
I've got about two thoughts there. Where we are right now, even if you go to someone else, it's probably still going to be terrible. That's about the fact of the matter, and technology is still progressing. But in a few years, maybe even in 5 years, honestly, people won't even be able to tell. So there is this aspect that people always say, people prefer the human connection, but that's kind of because you can still tell the difference, Ethics and everything aside, of course, you wouldn't want to mislead people, but that's where things are going.
Thank you for the discussion. So I do use, Gen AI, but more for administrative purposes. So I'm a lecturer, so academic integrity and it's an issue. Students don't write. It hinders critical thinking, and then it makes us anxious as academics and university on originality and just students being authentic in their writing. So I just want to find out from you, what are design interventions that maybe you can implement or you have implemented where AI does not hinder learning and academic integrity?
There are, especially on the issue of academic integrity, that's been all over the place. People, lecturers complaining that everyone's submitting an essay from ChatGPT and this and that. And then there are those AI plagiarism sites, and then they catch you, and then they fail you. Yes, since you're a lecturer, I will say first and foremost, don't use any of those at all, because there have been several tests. Someone put in the US, what's it called, the US Constitution? The original US Constitution was like 90% AI generated, but this was written 200 years ago. Those tools are terribly, terribly flawed. They do not work. In fact, OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, initially had AI detection software, and they abandoned it because it's just not reliable. I think, honestly, at the moment, the only way to guarantee that it's 100% authentically written is if they're going to write it right in front of you.
I think, actually, though, can I answer this question? Because we're working with Stellenbosch, Northwestern University, UCT on this question, a bunch of universities. And I think this is like there are two things. There's a fundamental question around why are we asking students to do what we're asking them to do. That whole thing is being questioned, and for the very first time, and I'm convinced that education institutions will be forced to change because their business models are like assessment models are at risk. Their entire businesses, the whole business of university is at risk. Because if I can no longer authenticate and credential what somebody is able to do or not do, then my value is compromised. And so that means we have to actually ask much more serious questions, which is not whether or not the student used AI or not. You should assume they are using AI. And the question then becomes, well, how do we give them skills, one, to be able to use AI in a way that enhances critical thinking? So how do I make it a companion to help me think about my writing process and reflect and learn on my writing process? Well, that means actually, no, your module, you now need to work on redesigning your module, as annoying as that may be, to incorporate more reflective practice, as an example. You need to be deliberate around where you are introducing maybe standardized in-classroom assessments and assessments that are things that students actually feel that are meaningful and valuable to producing outcomes that are going to help them get where they want to go in the world. People are lazy, people don't care, so like I think that's always a risk. But what you do see is that if students say they use AI, but the way they use AI is intermittent and very limited. So they will one-shot something, so they'll take an essay topic, they'll put it into like a ChatGPT system, and then they'll submit the essay. That's not learning. So there's a huge opportunity to also be thoughtful and deliberate about introducing an approach to teaching and learning where you are, one, incorporating smart learning design that actually, one, helps students synthesize, helps them rep on their work, helps them use a system that gives them feedback on their own thinking, but is also fundamentally aligned with their goals. And then I think there's another big question that all lecturers actually and educators should be having with their students, which is why are we here doing this, and why should we keep doing the things we're doing? Those are societal questions. Because young people are wondering, if machines can do this or produce something in a couple of seconds, why should I? And that's actually the bigger conversation we should be having.
Absolutely. Time for maybe two more questions.
Yeah, thanks. So, I mean, so much of AI sounds freaking amazing, and so much of it sounds quite dystopian as well. So it's such an interesting thing. I think it feels like in the EdTech space, there's quite a high risk involved here, because this is like the technology's moving so quickly, and something that you thought was a novel, innovative solution, like overnight, suddenly is no longer. You know, like they package this whole piece into Google Classrooms because that's what they're building already. And then Mindjoy is like, how do you differentiate yourself and keep yourself relevant to your, I guess, customers and stuff in that space? Well, how do you guard against, it feels like there's 80-pound gorillas in the room and they're all coming for everybody's lunch. That's what it feels like. So when we're thinking around how we design stuff, we're also trying to work out, well, what do we design that is not going to be replaceable? And I'd be love to hear your input on that. Yeah.
I always go back to what problem do you exist to solve and whose problems are those? And the problems that Mindjoy exists to solve are not the same as Google's education product or Microsoft's product. So that's kind of where I always go back to, is like, why, like, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And are you very clear about that? And have you evaluated the opportunity, and can you navigate a competitive landscape? That being said, I mean, it is a very fast-moving, like, competitive landscape. But we, for example, so we were part of the GPT-3 beta, so before ChatGPT came out. And we had a really interesting look into asking the question, and the reason we started Mindjoy was to say that fundamentally teachers are in short supply. Quality teachers are in short supply. And there's going to be a growing demand for STEM skills because of AI and technology proliferation into society. And that, if you go evaluate any learning system and the throughput of how many STEM graduates are we producing, well, it's just not nearly enough to meet the demand there is for jobs, STEM jobs, as an example. And so that fundamental problem for us, right, is a big problem. And it's a complex problem. It's a wicked problem, and so there's a lot to go do there. So that's how I think about it. Go back to the problem, and if your users are using your product and you have good retention, then you should just keep building.
That's a really great question, because I used to create courses in AI or coding courses, and we found that there was a decline in the market, not only with us, but with Udemy. Their stock price went down, edX, Chegg, Coursera, everything. You can see a really steep dip from 2021 all the way till now. So, it made me realize that, okay, in the education space, you either have to adapt or you die. So we had to pivot, and we decided, okay, why would people, we essentially had to rethink things. Why would people want to take a course where they have to learn the code and then they have to still figure out how to implement the code in their actual project? So then we pivoted and built a new coding agent that fits into your vibe coding tools, that gives them context for how to code, because there's new technologies and new models coming out every single day. So we created this thing called Vision Graph that adds context for your more recent coding repositories, like maybe Google's Gemini agents, ADK they call it, and OpenAI's SDK. Those things haven't been trained on the existing models, so we found a gap where we can take those models and supplement your additional your current vibe coding tools and give it context. So you don't have to go and take a course and learn how to code. You just say, okay, I want to code this new library that just came out, this new technology. Can you just import the code and create this project for me? So you really have to, in this rapid pace of AI, you really have to constantly adapt, and you have to be forward thinking. Otherwise, you're going to be left behind, and before you know it, Google or OpenAI, they'll just come for your lunch and they'll just sweep you off your feet.
I will say on the Google one in particular, Google does 1,000,001 products already, and there's actually a website called killedbygoogle.com. Some of you may know it. They are so famous for dropping products that someone had to make a whole website just to this one, this one, this one. So I wouldn't say Google's a death sentence or anything like that. And even if they do keep maintaining the project, you can always have, I'm assuming you're working within South Africa, not the whole world, you can always narrow down your problems a little bit more. But I will say, Chido and I always say, we're not worried about what Google's doing, what Microsoft's doing. We're worried about the guy in his basement, because there's someone out there who is driven and who's focused on that one thing. That's the person you should probably worry about.
And my question is directed to Ishe, and everybody else is free to answer. So the current accuracy of translating to African languages is quite poor. When do you think this will improve, and where we can get translation without losing meaning?
Officially, I'm now a salesperson, and just give me a call. We've got that for you. Okay, but no. On a serious note, that is just basically because of the scarcity of the data sets themselves. That is a work in progress, and I would say, based on what's going on in the industry right now, the big companies, the small companies, and everyone, I can confidently say we're a few years away from at least the major African languages not having that as an issue. By the major ones, I would say the ones with speakers in the millions, everything from Zulu to Swahili. But it's still going to be an issue for a lot of other languages for years to come. Because for the record, there are 2,124 African languages with ISO codes, and there's reason to believe that there's even more. So Africa's just, it's such a diverse place. We're going to be here for a while.
Guys, I've got a question about empathy. So I've been doing a little experiment on myself, and then 3 friends in the last week. One's just had a bad breakup. I lost my sister, and they've been using Claude and GPT to shrink themselves through this process or generate content for messaging or fights with husbands. And it's a girls group, and it's helped with self-regulation, self-compassion. The Claude even called the woman about to break with a boyfriend, like, my love, I see you. And you walk away from this freaking bot feeling like you're the most witnessed person in the world. And this isn't even an avatar yet, and it's fostering bizarre human connection. And I mean, I've been playing like this for ages, and I'm really irritated with my kids. So Steve, I'll vent at ChatGPT or Claude, and I was like, okay, just help me self-soothe, and then like help me draft a letter to my kids, and then sometimes I even sit and read it, and then I'm just like super mom in that moment. But now I'm scared because the other day I couldn't get onto it, and I'm like, am I losing skill? Am I outsourcing my empathy? Am I outsourcing my, am I fast tracking and is everything becoming so fast? Like I'm taking so many shortcuts to be good at something, and the pace at which you can deliver is that much higher, and the standard is that much higher. Like, talk to me about the downsides of this thing. Where is Sarah going in her life? And my friends, in terms of this like human connection piece, and then linked to that, you guys are like highly integrated in AI and immersed in AI. A vision of your future school. The schoolhouse has withstood like thousands of disruptions, not thousands, but significant. It's birthed out of the Industrial Revolution, but the age of the internet, the age of TV, broadcasting, it's still the schoolhouse. It's endured. How do you see that changing? Now, is this the thing? Like, is this the thing that's going to dismantle it? And what do you see in your mind's eye?
I think Sarah and Friends is the makings of a new Black Mirror show where we lose empathy. But jokes aside, who wants to answer?
Empathy is a big thing, and I've explored it with different types of models. Some models are more empathetic than others. Sorry? They're fake, but it helps you. It's sort of like you can journal, or you can talk to AI, which is like journaling, but you have someone that actually listens to you. It's non-judgmental and is willing to, give you actionable advice on how to deal with them. Like we've been creating this AI app called Aria for AI for Parents, which we have used ourselves. Last night, I'm a father of twins, so one of the my kids were screaming and throwing tantrums, 2-year-old, and I'm trying to tell my wife, okay, calm down. It's only a tantrum. All the basic needs are met. And obviously, wives, they don't listen to their husbands. So I just said, okay, I spoke to Arya and said, Arya, look, this is the case. This is what we're doing. This is all the stuff that we've done. Should my wife go into the room because we're doing sleep training? And, it confirmed my, husband's always right, So, yeah, it essentially gave an empathetic approach to say, what, basic needs are met. It's this common phase for toddlers to scream and exert their independence at this age. So sometimes you need that third party to just make you reflect. Someone that's non-judgmental, non-opinionated, but also is knowledgeable. You have to use it with a grain of salt, pinch of salt, because sometimes AIs hallucinate. But what we try to do is ground the knowledge in actual expert advice, which says, okay, based on this age, this is what you can expect. And we mix empathy with expert knowledge base, which gives you that sort of like holistic approach to solving certain problems. Because that's what you want to do at the end of the day. You want to solve problems, whether it's physical problems or emotional problems. That's what we have to try and solve for. I don't know if that answers your question.
Sarah, I'll have a go at like taking the other side for you. AI addiction is a real thing, and if you want to think about it, maybe using social media is a good analogy is like we didn't always think about or didn't realize we had this amazing tool, but we don't always think about like, oh, what are the powerful algorithms showing us and helping us think about and shaping the way we think and stuff. And then many people have had to learn the skill of like regulating and moderating their social media use and all of that. And I think in the same way, we're going to see this in a few years' time. People be like, oh, I'm so dependent on AI, I can't do anything about it, become anxious about not having access to AI, as an example. I think that's very, very real. And then I think that's where we as users actually have to do our own education, and as society has to decide how do we want it in our lives. And I don't think that should be a centrally decided thing. I think that should be a decentralized decision that every person should be able to make for themselves. And I think that matters, like being deliberate about it. And so like in the same way as a great teacher, to the point of education, a great teacher doesn't just always, or there's the meme of helicopter parenting or now lawnmower parenting, where you remove every single obstacle in your child's way just so that they have a good path. I think AI could be essentially our lawnmower sidekick that like removes all the obstacles for us so it's easier, which is great in many ways. But fundamentally, we still have to exist in the world and do. And so we need like a scaffolded approach of like, you kind of maybe need to ask yourself like, cool, I learned a shortcut, or I quickly got access to something which was really useful because now I have a mental model. I think fundamentally the way we're changing is shifting, but then we also have to like almost like be responsible for our own spaced repetition and go, okay, could I do this with myself? Or like, what did I learn last time I used this? How do I apply it now without using it? Like, what was the mental model? So almost the metacognitive layer. Like, we're going to focus more on metacognition. And then I don't think the schoolhouse is going away. Just like, I'll take that view. Many people think that like AI tutors or whatever are going to like get rid of school. And I don't think so. So I think there's something very interesting to actually go, well, who's saying that and why? Well, the global north has a fundamentally different demographic dynamic to the global south. And so we have growing student populations. Our high schools and universities have year-on-year tripling of enrollments, okay? The global north has a declining school population. The average, in the United States, the average teacher-student ratio in a classroom is 1 to 16. It is just not the same problem. So yes, there everyone can have an expert like freaking NBA coach who, that teaches them with AI tutors, and they have like a soiree of AI tutors and stuff. The dynamic is very, very different. We have a different problem where we have massive classrooms and most people still get together in the classroom to learn with others. And that's fundamentally this thing, is because most people learn in social settings. Learning is fundamentally a social phenomena. AI tutors are interesting because they mimic social interactions. So we'll see something different to the previous generation of mastery-based learning systems where they were purely deterministic systems. Now we have probabilistic systems that imitate human interaction. And that's going to change how classrooms work and what they look like. But I don't think school or the classroom's going away.
Absolutely. Thanks for the insights, guys. I think we are out of time, but I love the questions. Please keep them going over lunch. I'm going to go from Ishe down towards Gabi. One final takeaway in one sentence before we wrap up.
Just my last thought here is kind of a little bit aligned over there. I think of AI, and I hope things stay the same, as less of a human replacement as an addition to your, rather an addition to your life. There's a lot of nervousness when you see an AI do something that feels human or something like that. Will AI replace all of these people there in these jobs and these things? It should be about doing more instead of taking the human out of the equation. Even in a workplace, for example. They've been saying for years now that programmers are going to be completely replaced because AI can write code now. That hasn't really happened at the moment. Now it's more like they expect you to write more code, because you have an AI assistant with you. So let's work towards having AI and human collaborations.
I think when it comes to AI adoption, it's as long as it makes business sense to do it, you should definitely do it. My philosophy is that it might not be perfect. You'll start off with GPT 3.5, and it won't give you. It'll give you like a 50% accuracy or something like that. You build the infrastructure, everything works. The whole pipeline works. But when the next model comes, you'll get a generational upgrade. So going from 3.5 to 4 or 4.0 and 4.1 03 mini. So many. There's so many different models. Even maybe Gemini models. There's a ton of them. You'll see that your application or whatever app that you're building or problem that you're solving will get a generational upgrade, and it gets better and better and better. And as AI gets smarter, your project also gets much better. It's sort of like an exponential curve. So I just want to leave you with that if you're thinking about AI adoption.
My one thing would be just experimenting with the tools is really, really important to build your understanding of what they can do. And I really mean experiment. So like if you can employ an attitude of play when you're using the tools, and instead of just trying to do the thing you're trying to do, but actually do it in 3 different ways. Try experiment with perspective taking when you use a tool. Challenge, challenge yourself. If you say, I don't think that was a good output, try again and again and again and see if you can get it good and what it takes to get it good. Because a lot of this is a sort of discovery. Understanding this technology is very much a discovery problem. And also, if you tried something 6 months ago and it didn't work, try it again now and see if it works. Just to keep your fingertips, to have a tacit understanding of how it works. And it's not to say that everyone needs a chatbot now. I don't think that's the way we want to go. But you want to understand what the possibilities are and then really synthesize where it makes sense in your business or your project.
Absolutely. I know there is a lot of fear, and I think it's like if you have a fear of water or fear of the ocean, you have 2 options. Option 1 is to run away, but the ocean doesn't go anywhere. It's still very much there. Or option 2 is learn to swim, and it becomes a lot more exciting of a journey. So I think definitely was an insightful panel for me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, panel. Thank you to the audience, and please keep these questions going.